Hey everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm back today with another episode of Something Dark, and yes, I am still on the webcam. I do have my podcast microphone plugged in, so hopefully it sounds okay. And I'm back today with a new case that I haven't covered before. As I was doing in the months leading up, I was going through the episodes that I had done on my audio-only version, basically like the podcast. And I was just going through the old cases. So now I have some new cases, and this is one that I want to cover today. So let's get into it. In January 2006, a young woman disappeared from her condo in Orlando, Florida. The details surrounding her disappearance remain a mystery, and the person captured dumping her car on CCTV remains unidentified. Today we're going to be covering the case of Jennifer Kesse. In January 2006, 24-year-old Jennifer Kesse had everything going for her. She had just moved into a condo in Orlando, Florida, that she had purchased on her own. She was recently promoted at her job, where she worked as a project manager for a timeshare company, and Jennifer was a year into her long-distance relationship with her boyfriend, Rob Allen. Although Rob lived about 3 hours away in Fort Lauderdale, the two of them would see each other every weekend. 1 week before Jennifer disappeared, she took a trip to St. Croix with Rob. While on vacation, Jennifer's brother Logan stayed at her condo. During this time, Logan invited over two friends over to the condo, Travis and Matt, who is an ex-boyfriend of Jennifer. Travis accidentally left his phone at Jennifer's condo, and the phone remains missing to this day. On Monday, January 23rd, after waking up early at Rob's house, Jennifer drove straight to work and called her mom on the way. Jen shared every detail about the trip, Joyce said. She was on a cloud. Later that afternoon, Jennifer also called her brother and her father. That evening, after work, Jennifer met with her boss, according to her dad. Afterwards, Jennifer and her boss walked out to their cars together before parting ways. This time frame is later confirmed due to Jennifer driving through a toll booth, which recorded the time. Later that evening, after arriving home from work, Jennifer calls her brother Logan to tell him about her trip to St. Croix. According to Logan, Jennifer seemed happy during their phone call and gave off no red flags. During the call, Logan explains that his friend Travis, who had visited the condo over the weekend, had left his phone. Jennifer explains that she's happy to post the phone from the mailroom at work the following day. After ending the phone call with Logan, Jennifer calls Travis and explains how she's planning to mail his phone the next day. Jennifer called her parents and spoke with them at around 6 p.m. After calling her parents, Jennifer calls a childhood friend, Lauren Dolgan, at approximately 7:30 p.m. The pair discussed Jennifer's trip to St. Croix that she just returned from, and according to Lauren, Jennifer seemed happy, but in a funky mood. She assumes it's just because she's tired from traveling. At around 10 p.m., Jennifer speaks with Rob. This is the final call made by Jennifer that night, and this call takes place inside of her condo, but Jennifer uses the condo's landline due to insufficient reception everywhere but the balcony. According to Rob, the couple had a disagreement over the phone, but he explains that the disagreement was like any husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend any couple might have. The long distance was taking a toll on their relationship. That was the last time Rob would ever speak to Jennifer again. While on the phone to Rob, someone knocks on Jennifer's door. She decides not to answer it, and instead assumes that it's her upstairs neighbor. The next morning on January 24th, two things out of the ordinary happened. Jennifer always communicated with Rob, either by phone or by text, before she left for work, but she did not contact him at all that morning. Rob tried calling her multiple times that day, but all of his calls went straight to voicemail. She also failed to show up for work that morning, even though she had an important meeting. Her co-workers became concerned because it was very unlike her to miss work without contacting them to give them notice. They called her condo's landline, but there was no answer. They then contacted her parents to let them know of her absence. Jennifer's parents received a call that Jennifer did not show up for work, and they were immediately worried. Her cell phone that she had had since she was 16 years old went to voicemail for the first time. This is how we knew something horrendous had happened, Joyce said. Within minutes, the Kesses and their son Logan were on the road and headed to Jennifer's condo in Orlando, Florida. While driving to her condo, Drew, Jennifer's dad, calls the management office of the condo and asks if they'll see if Jennifer's car is in the parking lot. Upon learning that Jennifer's car is not there, Drew asks the manager to see if she's in the condo. According to Drew, the manager explains that they cannot enter Jennifer's condo without someone else being present. Drew continues to make this request until the manager finds an employee of the building to enter the condo with them and stay on the phone with Drew as they enter. The manager explained to Drew that nothing seemed out of place and that no one was in the unit. The rest of their drive is spent calling Jennifer's friends, local hospitals and jails to look for her. When the Kesses, who lived 2 hours away, arrived at Jennifer's condo between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m., nothing seemed out of place. In fact, it looked like she had just been there. There was makeup all over her counter. The t-shirt she had worn to bed was on the floor. The shower was wet in the corners, Joyce Kesse said. Her parents did notice, however, that her purse, iPod, and briefcase were missing from the condo. This suggests that Jennifer had encountered trouble after leaving for work. By sundown, many of Jennifer's friends and family have gathered at her condo and started to search for her. They stood on the street corners while they held up missing signs and handed out flyers with Jennifer's photo. Authorities arrive at Jennifer's condo sometime between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. According to an interview with the Inside Crime podcast, there were approximately 14 people inside Jennifer's condo when police arrived. And according to Drew Kesse, the family had been using the condo as their base for operations up to this point. Later that night, when there was still no sign of her, police officially declared Jennifer missing. Once Jennifer is reported missing, the Orlando Police Department makes a plea to the public for information regarding her disappearance. Additionally, officials announced that they are looking for Jennifer's car, a black 2004 Chevrolet Malibu. 2 days after Jennifer went missing, her black Chevy Malibu was found in another condo complex parking lot approximately 1 mile away from where she lived in a high crime area. You have that initial hope, like, we found the car, it's only going to be a matter of time before we find Jennifer, Rob said. But when detectives opened the trunk of the car, Jennifer wasn't there. Nothing had been stolen from the car, and there was no evidence of a struggle. When detectives reviewed surveillance video from the complex where Jennifer's car was discovered, they saw a person parking her car. At around noon on the day Jennifer went missing, the person drove into the parking lot, sat in the car for about 30 seconds, and then walked away. But when police tried to identify this phantom figure, they hit a roadblock. The surveillance video took a photo every 3 seconds, and each time, the person's face was obstructed by a fence post. On January 26th, Jennifer's car is towed for further investigation. Officials were told by residents of the apartment complex that the car had been parked in the parking lot for several days at this point. The following day, on January 27th, the reward for information leading to her safe return is raised to $15,000. The next day, an anonymous donor posts a $100,000 reward for any information leading to the safe return of Jennifer, adding to the $15,000 reward already being offered. Jennifer's parents refused to give up. They immediately moved into Jennifer's condo to be close to the investigation. The Kesses told police that Jennifer had complained to them about the workers at her building who occasionally made her feel uncomfortable. In the months leading up to her disappearance, Jennifer tells her family how uncomfortable the construction workers had been making her feel. Her condo complex was undergoing a renovation. She tells her parents at this time that she feels like they had been looking at her, and other residents of the complex complained of comments they'd made. There are a total of 447 condos in the complex, but only 250 were occupied at the time that Jennifer lived there, due to their extensive remodeling. Some of the workers were even allowed to stay in the vacant condos while they worked there. In fact, some of them had done work in her condo 1 week before she disappeared. On January 29th, authorities continue searching a wooded area approximately 5 miles from Jennifer's condo. The area is described as a wooded lot off the John Young Parkway. Authorities on horseback continue to search through the brush for any piece of evidence that may be related to Jennifer's disappearance. Additionally, police search a nearby canal for any evidence. At this point, authorities are focusing their searches within a 3 to 5 mile radius of the area of her condo. A few days later, on February 2nd, Drew and Joyce launched JenniferKesse.com, a website focused on information related to Jennifer's disappearance. The website hosts registration forms for upcoming searches, a search schedule, and contact information for tip submissions. At 8:30 a.m., On February 4th, groups of volunteers gather at the mall at Millenia near Jennifer's condo complex to perform a search of the area. This search is organized by the Child Watch of North America. Nearly 1,100 volunteers take part in this search. Later that day, officials released 2 grainy images of an individual in question related to Jennifer's disappearance. The still images taken from the surveillance footage show an individual wearing a white shirt, light-colored pants, and dark shoes, walking past a gate located approximately a mile from Jennifer's condo. On February 11th, police issue a warning to those involved in Jennifer's disappearance. Speak now or pay the price later. Orlando police announced to the public after investigating Jennifer's disappearance for several weeks. This is the first time investigators have implied that there is a possibility that more than one individual may have been involved in Jennifer's disappearance. On February 15th, the FBI joined the search for Jennifer and began assisting the investigation of Jennifer's disappearance. Specifically, a spokesperson with the Orlando Police Department announces that the FBI is assisting with the verification and calculations relating to the height, weight, and additional characteristics of the individual seen on the surveillance footage. From this, officials are able to learn that the individual being looked at by the investigators as a person of interest is between 5'3" and 5'5" tall, but they are not able to learn any additional information about the individual. 6 months after Jennifer disappeared, Detective Joel Wright became the lead investigator and developed a theory of what happened to her on January 24th, 2006. I believe Jennifer got ready for work. She showered, got dressed, went outside of her condo, locked the door on the way out, and made it as far as her car. After that, I believe she was abducted, he said. On the 2-year anniversary of Jennifer's disappearance, her family and friends gathered on a street corner and held up signs, just as they had done on the day that Jennifer went missing. "We are a broken family," Kesse said. "She needs to come home to her family." Almost 3 years after Jennifer's disappearance, Detective Wright decided to take a fresh look at the case and interviewed people on audio tape. One of the people he spoke to was a former housekeeper at Jennifer's condo complex, and when he showed the woman the security camera photo of the unidentified person, she told him it resembled a man she knew from the complex, known as Chino, because of his hair, clothing, and the way he walked. This was the first time Wright had ever heard of Chino. Detective Wright learned that Chino used to live in another building at Jennifer's condo complex and was a former maintenance worker there. Chino was one of the workers who did some repairs in Jennifer's condo 1 week before she disappeared. Detective Wright also found an anonymous crime line tip that was reported during the first week of the investigation that suggested Chino might have been involved in Jennifer's disappearance. When Detective Wright found Chino, he was serving time for a statutory rape charge. On March 18, 2009, Wright interviewed Chino in prison and asked him about the time he worked at Jennifer's condo. Chino said Jennifer let him into her condo and everything was normal. Chino also told him, "I don't have any idea of what happened to her." That day, Chino took a polygraph test and he passed. In 2010, Detective Wright was reassigned, and as more time went by, the Kesses grew frustrated with the Orlando Police Department's investigation. In 2016, after 10 years had passed since Jennifer disappeared, she was declared dead by the state of Florida. "That was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life," Kesse said. In 2018, the Kesses sued the Orlando Police Department for a copy of Jennifer's case files. After months of legal wrangling in March 2019, they all reached a settlement. The OPD handed over more than 16,000 pages of documents and 67 hours of video and audio tape to the Kesses. Under the agreement, the Orlando Police Department would no longer lead the investigation. Michael Toretta, a private investigator who works for the Kesses, said he learned some 10 months after Jennifer disappeared that a person was seen dumping a rolled-up piece of carpet into a lake not far from where Jennifer lived. This tip was especially interesting to him because on the day Jennifer went missing, there were workers laying down carpet in the apartment across the hall from Jennifer's condo. Toretta says he knew he had to get this tip checked out. In November 2019, local police came out with a dive team to search the lake where the eyewitness said that the piece of carpet was dumped. The team spent 2 days searching, but they didn't find anything. "This is something that is haunting me," Michael Toretta said. "Until we can find that carpet and see what's in it, we need to follow up on that particular lead." Michael Toretto also has a new theory as to what he thinks might have happened to Jennifer on the day she vanished. Based on interviews with people who lived at the condo complex, he believes that up to 10 construction workers were living in an empty apartment just across from Jennifer's. He says it could have been one or more of these workers who abducted her. The Kesses have dedicated more than 15 years of their lives to finding the truth about what happened to their daughter on the morning of January 24th, 2006. The hole in our hearts is forever there until we have an answer, Joyce Kesse said. And now with the case files in their possession, they are more determined than ever to keep their daughter's story alive. And that brings us to the end of today's case. I'm going to leave the Find Jennifer Kesse Facebook page linked in the video description, which you can follow for any updates on the case. If you have any thoughts about the case, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you have a case you'd like me to cover, you can also leave that in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far in the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can click the bell to be notified whenever I post. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.